Hey guys, this is a private recording of the stream yesterday that was inspired by our new member Andre. So I appreciate you, man. This is something I've already been passively watching and tracking over the years, but your question actually really helped me bring together a couple of ideas. So what I'm going to do today is go over the inverse correlation between BTC dominance and total 3. Total 3 is the total market cap of altcoins. So it's basically all assets minus BTC and ETH. And this is basically like an altcoin index, right? Over here, you'll see there's a flat line where BTC dominance was between 96 and 100. Uh, this is when there was no options, right? It was just BTC. It was the only player in the game. And then eventually there was Ethereum, XRP, Neo, and some of the boomer assets that lasted now multi-cycle. So when they came around, you basically had this origin of the concept of rotation, where if you wanted to take profits on BTC, you could now rotate into ETH and then run ETH up and then rotate into Neo and then so on. So with that, as new assets come into the crypto market and the market caps change, you'll notice that the rotations get more and more aggressive. And with more options, BTC dominance has eventually come down. So now, we're hovering around 63, and this is on the high end of this range. So I treat this like the true range now that we have thousands of assets that we could trade and invest in. So what I'm going to do is go over each cycle and where the altcoin cycle started and try to draw the correlation between the two charts and proxies. So here we have BTC dominance. This I think is a trading view feed issue, the gap down, but either way, it went down dramatically over here. It could have been the introduction of new assets to, I don't know what it is, but anyway, it looks like a data feed issue. You could see it retraced half the move and made a high here. And then this high took out that high. So I'm treating this like a regular liquidity raid. And if we just mark out what happened here, you can see there's your first high, and then the second one runs that high. That's your high resistance liquidity run. And I've got this marked out right here. If you look at the time dial, December 8, 2017, there was a 28-day precipitous decline in the BTC dominance. So within that period, we're going to look at the total 3 chart. Same timeline, you could see it kind of run parabolic, but going into it, it was kind of flat. And then you could see all of a sudden it really picks up the delta and you get that massive parabolic run. If you check the dates right here on the time dial, it matches up cleanly with BTC dominance on December 8, 2017. You could see it's kind of flat going into it, but trending up. And then you get this exponential move up where it goes 3x. So the market cap basically inflates from 85 billion to 360 billion in 28 days. And just like BTC dominance, you could see it makes a bottom 28 days later, and then it starts trending up again. Total 3 does that parabolic run in 28 days, marks a top, and then reverses. And then alts draw down dramatically. So that's your first alt season, and you could see it only lasted 4 weeks, approximately 4 weeks. And what that is, every cycle you're going to get the rotation where BTC begins the bull run, and then it starts going up, BTC dominance, till it hits a top. And then what I'm looking for is basically a high resistance liquidity run marking the top, and then a rejection or unwillingness to continue displacing higher, and then precipitous bleed out, and that usually is the beginning of the alt season. So here's the next one, which also, based on the 4-year Bitcoin halving cycles, it kind of lines up because this one happens 4 years later as well. There's a top, and then it basically comes down, corrective move, and then there's another move up, with a high resistance liquidity run right here on January 3rd, 2021. And I remember this time, it was so sudden. It's like someone turned the light on and alt season just started, right? But January 3rd, 2021. So if we go into the total 3 chart, you can see it's kind of flat but trending up. One moment. TradingView is doing it again. Just give me a moment. There it is. Okay. So TradingView is a problem right now. Just in case you guys haven't noticed, I'm ranting about it every day. But here it is. So down here, while Bitcoin is king and Bitcoin is doing the move, this thing is just kind of weaving in and out of this structure right here. Eventually reclaims it, starts trending up, but if you zoom out, it's relatively flat compared to the parabolic move that alts made afterward, right? So you can see it's like relatively flat when you zoom out. So then here you mark the top when it does the high resistance liquidity run on January 3rd, 2021. January 3rd, 2021. You can see it starts to really aggressively mark up. So this delta changes dramatically right here. And then it marks up 8x. So if we look at the time from when BTC dominance started to bleed out to the bottom right here, where it started to base and then build structure and then eventually start moving up again, that was 135 days from the high to the low. If you look at total 3, from when it started breaking out and the delta started to rise to where it capped out right here, literally to the candle right before it dumped 48%. So basically alt market cap dropped by half in one day, the day after that 135th day right here where BTC dominance bottomed. And you could see dominance just skyrocketed right there. So it's a perfect correlation just based on that. And you could see to the day it works out really, really well. So a lot of people, they try to make correlation, they try to like stuff correlations into the markets. But think about it, if you're buying alts and you're waiting for an alt season, the only correlation you need is when money is flowing out of BTC, which we use BTC dominance as the proxy for that, into altcoins, which is the total altcoin market cap, total 3. That's literally the only 2 charts that matter. USDC and USDT dominance only states that money is flowing in and out of the market. So when it's risk on, you see those 2 dominance charts for stablecoins dropping, right? When it's risk off, you see it rising dramatically. So you could, but then you could only infer that all assets are being risk on or risk off, including Bitcoin and ETH. So if you just wanted to know when alt season was happening, you would only use total 3, which is the total 3 total market cap. And now this is what I see currently in the 2023 bull run. And I'm saying 2023 bull run because I believe it's an it's like an expanding bull run, meaning with more adoption, these runs are taking longer now. So they're drawn out moves. Instead of the 4-year, my thesis is the 4-year Bitcoin halving cycle is going to have impact, but it's going to be less impactful. And these cycles are going to expand. They're not going to be 4-year cycles. They're going to be, like 6, 7, maybe 8. And the volatility will be a little bit more suppressed as adoption increases and institutions come in. So there's going to be less like 20x's, I find, or my theory is there's going to be less 20x's. Now here's the current run, 2023 Bitcoin bull run. So if you zoom out, this whole range was an accumulation range. And if we just use like a regular liquidity profile, that was a significant low from May 2018. the exact same thing we're marking out with alt runs. You could see they spike the low. That's your high resistance liquidity run. And then as they spike the low and BTC dominance starts rising, this is indicative of Bitcoin getting the first, like the lion's share of the first part of the run, where everyone is piling into Bitcoin first, and then they're making profits running it up from like 20K to 100K. And then the rotation part of the cycle is when they're getting out of Bitcoin, when dominance tops out, and then they're rotating into L1s like AVAX, Solana, Polkadot, whatever. And then the idea is at the tail end of the cycle is when you can expect the alt run or alt season. And in the past, it's only been like 2 to 4 weeks. This cycle could be longer because the whole cycle has been prolonged. Like it's not a 4-year cycle. I feel like it's extended to like 5-6 years this year. And it's just with that, I think all parts of the cycle are going to extend, including the alt season. So here you can see they spike the low, high resistance liquidity run, and then it's like almost a daily TWAP where it just keeps going up, and like there's a consistent bid on Bitcoin, except for this drop. So now we're rapidly approaching the highs. We broke well above this level right here, back tested as support. So in my opinion, we're now going for this high. And this is like the tail end of the Bitcoin run before an alt rotation. So we have 15% before we hit these highs. And I have a couple of alerts here. So when that alert triggers, I'm going to treat it the same way that we treated it for the 2021 run and the 2017 altcoin run. And my assumption, or like my thesis, is that when we do an external raid over here, or a high resistance liquidity run, total 3 will be basically back testing this supply line and basing off this anchored VWAP, and we'll get some kind of a structure like this. You can see how anchored VWAP was being used as support, and it ended up being really good support for the next bounce, like a reaccumulation. Short-term low, long-term low, short-term low, and then markup. We have pretty much the exact same profile right now, where we have what I believe to be short-term low, one more spike into the supply line to backtest these highs that were previous supply, and hopefully we'll flip it into demand. So that would be your long-term low, and then another short-term low or shoulder to the right, reclaiming this, and then we get the markup phase. So I'm really watching this, and just based on pattern recognition and looking at the historical data for every high time frame beginning of the cycle and alt run, I believe that we're in the zone right here where if there is one more flush on Bitcoin, we'll get this total 3 flush into the supply, and then ideally you'll set up an alert here for supply line retest, and then I'm just doing once per bar. So now anytime price interacts with that supply line, I'm gonna flip on my chart when the alert goes on, and I want to see these strong wicks showing that there is absorption off of the supply line. And if we get that structure here, this is a bottoming structure, which is harder to fake out on an index, or like this is a total index for altcoins, right? So it's harder to fake this move than it would be for an individual altcoin, where it could be easily manipulated by like a few whales, right? So if we get this structure, I think it's alt season. And again, I'll alert the server whenever my alerts go off, and we'll make sure to prep everyone. This is where you're going to be looking, like here, you're going to start laddering in on the long-term low with obvious stops below if price continues to decline. And then you're going to be adding the rest into spot and swing positions here when we confirm the low and reclaim anchored VWAP. So that's going to be the setup for the year. This is a private video. Please don't share it off the server. It's something that I've kind of labored over for years, and now I finally brought it all together. So hopefully you guys benefit from this. Cheers, guys.